So here I begin my blood stunt experiment process. Here you can see I was trying out different bags with different kinds of food coloring, and then I had the idea of maybe adding in sponges as that could release more blood. Here you can see I wanted to get it darker. And here's my first attempt with the method that I found from several stunt directors about releasing blood, which was a blood bag with pressure pushed out by my fingers. And as you can see, that kind of worked. And here are many other attempts of it. This unfortunately was very difficult because here you can see there was way too much water in it, and I couldn't get a good grip of it to pop it, and I needed to use two hands to eventually get the pop out, which, as you can see, was requiring too much energy to get that pop, and there was too much blood and it splattered a bit too much. So I tried the method with the sponges, which I wanted it to work really badly so that could work, but as you can see again, it was requiring too much pressure and I needed both my hands to pop it. But the release worked, the second release of the extra liquid. So here I'm trying it again with just one sponge. Again, I'm trying to twist it as hard as I can and get it to pop right. And this one worked much better, except there was a bit too much liquids and it wasn't as easy to pop in one go. But the second release of the blood worked. And here I realized that I needed to preserve my red food coloring, so I went over to blue food coloring, and I thought maybe flipping it could work so that it could come out of the seam. This, however, was a bit difficult as it didn't twist in the right way, and it was more horizontal than I wanted it, and it was much more difficult to pop than I wanted, and it didn't even end up popping from the seam. It ended up making a hole for itself. And here I tried using a different bag that I had from IKEA, which I felt was a bit flimsier. And I'm tightening it. And this one ended up popping much easier because of the quality of the bag, and that second release worked really nicely. So from that moment on, I thought I needed to use a different bag. And there you can see me making the liquid. And here it was the first rehearsal with George and Eloise in the bathroom, where we tried to make the pops happen and see how George was getting on. It was very fun indeed. And here you can see her having to use two hands and a lot more pressure than we're supposed to with the old bags. Which didn't work as well, but it was good for her to try and see what that felt like. And here we decided to use some food coloring so that we could all get prepared to see that color come out. And unfortunately, this one went wrong and spilled all over her to the back, which was very funny indeed, but pretty difficult to clean up. So we had to remember to position the angle of the hands right to make sure the blood comes out one way. And here it was the first time trying it with the pants in the space, and it was very difficult. There seemed to be an issue with the tightness, the pressure of the bag. So eventually, we're trying, and eventually we try to use the whole movement all together with a different bag, and she pops it. All right, and then a lot of water comes out, even out to her feet, as you can see right there. We were all immediately amazed and very excited about it. As you can see, it's making the whole legging wet and the whole floor wet. We realized that we might need to use more reinforced sponges or newspapers on the bottom of the tablecloth, but overall we could see that the stunt could work, and it was exactly the effect that I wanted it to. So here we're trying it again with different bags that we got, and that bag unfortunately failed and only made a small hole, which looked a bit difficult and ridiculous, and was very difficult to squeeze out all the water. And eventually we moved on to these bags, which, as you can see, were much easier to pop. And here you can see we're all trying it all together all the time, and that popped brilliantly, with much less effort, and George felt more comfortable with popping these like so, which didn't require that much strength, and we were all quite happy with the result from that. And here we can see the final sort of what we ended up using in the show. This bag ended up popping perfectly, and the color consistency was what I wanted because I used some cocoa powder in it to get a bit of the brown and a bit of the thickness back in. And here you can see this is exactly the desired effect, and we were going to go forth with this. Perfect. Overall, this whole process was a bit difficult, but I'm so happy that I figured it out and I used this experimentation time to get to it. And yeah.